I'm Christine. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with my July mid-month wrap-up. So far in July, I've read 22 books for the month, so I'm just going to quickly run through them all. Of course, as always, if you ever want to see more of my thoughts or my full reviews on any of the books that I read, I do review every book that I read, and you can get to my reviews through my Goodreads, which is always linked in the description of all of my videos. So without further ado, we're just going to jump into the 22 books I've read this month. I started off the month with reading an Arc of Bittersweet by Carrie Aarons. This one did come out in July, so it's out now. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and it's the first in a new small town series. So this one I ended up giving 3.5/4 stars to. If you're in the mood for a low angst where the romance comes pretty easily, I think you'd enjoy this one. And this one we also get like a hate to love setup. They were neighbors as well in the past, and the heroine is also an actress. So basically in this, the heroine is an actress, and she had moved away from their small town to go do like her career, and her father ends up passing away, and so she ends up going back to the small town to see like the land and the house, get it all fixed up and sell it, because she actually didn't really have a good relationship with her father. In fact, he was like hated by the town. The hero's family has always owned the land right next to her father's, and both of their fathers like hated one another. Like the whole town hated her father. He was not a nice guy. So she has all of that she's working with as well. So yeah, her and the hero, they did know one another in the past, but they never really had anything together. And so now she's back, and when she gets back, she realizes he's been kind of taking care of the animals on her father's property since her father has passed. And so they end up kind of easily falling into a relationship together. There's also like a little bit of a forced proximity. They have to share a bed. They end up staying together because there becomes like this romantic suspense element in there that I wasn't expecting, but that happens in the story too. So they kind of like bunk up together while he tries to protect her. So yeah, definitely more low angst with the heroine kind of figuring out what she wants to do with her career. Like she's kind of over being an actress and all of that. And yeah, just kind of like small town vibes. So yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. Next, I read Come With Me by Brooke Montgomery. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So this one is a novella that is the prequel to her new small town series that's coming out later this year, or maybe this month, I can't remember. So this one's a freebie novella, or it was when I grabbed it. The audio as well as the ebook were both free from the author's like site or on their Instagram. They shared the link. So yeah, this is the start to a new series, and it also is a second chance romance and secret baby, which it is in the synopsis, and that is one of my favorite tropes, and so I wanted to give it a try. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This one we see a little bit of the past and a little bit of the present as well. So in the past, the hero and the heroine, they were high school sweethearts, and we see them 10 years in the past when he ended up wanting to move away from their small town. He had like an abusive father. He wanted to get out from under his father's foot, and so he took off and left town, wanted her to come with him, but she didn't at the time, and so he ended up leaving behind their small town. Then in present day, the hero is actually working at this family's ranch, and the heroine saw him one day on like one of their social media posts, and so she goes and tracks him down and finds him, and she's like, by the way, sir, like we have a daughter that you never knew about. And so it has that second chance, secret baby, small town vibe. I just really enjoyed the vibe. I love a childhood friends, turn lovers, turn like reunited second chance, like all of that. I will say the beginning half definitely had my interest, and the last half did kind of drag for me, but otherwise I really enjoyed this one, and I'm excited to check out the rest of the series from the author when it comes out. Next up, I had an Arc of the Dandelion Diary by Devney Perry, which we all know around here. I love Devney Perry. Anytime she has a new book, I'm gonna read it. So I was super excited to get the arc of this one and read it. This is actually out now, so you could definitely go check it out as well. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is a novella. It takes place in her Mason Jar series, which if you haven't read that duology, I definitely recommend it because I am obsessed with that series. It's definitely underrated, more emotional, just like so good. The Birthday List is the first book in that series if you haven't read it yet. It was just a fun time to be back in this Mason Jar series, seeing all these familiar characters and places. The Mason Jar is the name of a local cafe, so that was super fun being back there and seeing the characters from The Birthday List. So yeah, this one is just like short and sweet. It is a novella. The hero is a single father to his daughter, and then the daughter wants to set up her dad with her school teacher, which was so cute and sweet. So much fun. It's a little bit forbidden as well because the heroine is the teacher and she's not allowed to have like relationships with her students' parents. So they kind of deal with that as well. Just like such a fun time. I loved being back in this series, and yeah, I just had a great time with it. 4 stars. Next, I read Their Vicious Darling by Nikki St. Croix. This is the 3rd book in the Vicious Lost Boys series, and this is easily my favorite of the series yet. I ended up giving this one 4.5/5 stars. So this is like a dark fantasy kind of reimagining of Peter Pan and the Lost Boys and Hook, all of that, but with Why Choose as well. And it was just like such a fun time. So this was just a fun time. Like at the beginning of this series with book 1, you find out that any of the Darling women, they end up actually getting kidnapped on their 18th birthday by Peter Pan and being taken to Neverland. And so yeah, it kind of kicks off from there. I'll kind of leave on cliffhangers and have you jumping into the next book in the series. I've been binging these on audio. They're all on the Libby app, or at least they are for me. So definitely check that out if you can, because the audios are so much fun. And this one, it just like ramped up the plot and the action. I loved the introduction of some more characters. We get the crocodile character in here, which I was absolutely obsessed with. It also helped immensely that the audiobook has a full cast of narrators with some of my all-time favorites. So we get Jason Clarke in here, absolutely obsessed. We also have Stella Hunter, Shane East, Vanessa Edwin, and like just some more names as well. So yeah, this one was a fun time and definitely my new favorite in the series. So next I was binging my way through the Honey Mountain series by Laura Pavlov. And so the next book I had was book 3, which is Make You Mine, and I ended up giving this one 3.5/4 stars. This one was actually one of my favorites in the series. The whole series in general is pretty low angst. It's not my favorite series from this author. I especially love her newer series, Cottonwood Cove, but the series was a fun time. And this one had some of my favorite tropes. So in this one we have small town, we have age gap. The hero is 10 years older than the heroine. We also have a single dad hero. The hero is a firefighter, and the heroine ends up becoming the nanny of his 2 daughters. This one, the hero is a firefighter, and he actually works with the heroine's father because he is the chief of the firehouse. So they kind of have that aspect going on as well. The heroine as well has always wanted to write romance books, but she's been feeling slumped. But now that she's working for the hero, like she starts getting inspired again. So that was fun to see. And I really enjoyed the setup and the first half of the story. More towards the middle, it started kind of to lose me, and there's some drama dealing with like custody and the hero's ex and all of that. Like I wasn't feeling as much, but yeah, otherwise it's a super low angst, just easy to binge series. So then I jumped into Simply Mine, which is the 4th book in the Honey Mountain series, and this one I ended up giving it 3/3.5 stars. So in this one we get small town, we get friends to lovers, and then the hero in this one is also the heroine's best friend's older brother. So in this one, the heroine is a kindergarten teacher in the small town, and the hero, he was like this architect who moved away and went and had this like super successful career, but now he is back in town, and he kind of comes across the heroine, and they kind of kick off into this old friendship they had. He was also like her first crush, her first kiss, all of those things. So they kind of just like easily fall back into relationship together. They have this kind of like friends with benefits situation while he's back in town, and it kind of leads from there. Like if you want just cute, fun, low angst, I definitely recommend this series. The next up I read Shutout by Avery Keelan, and I was so excited for this one. This is a hockey romance. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 4.5/5 stars. This one was originally supposed to come out in June, but then the author ended up pushing back the release date to July 1st. So it is out now, and you can definitely go check it out on Kindle Unlimited. This one is a follow-up to Offside, or exists in that same kind of hockey contemporary world that the author created in that series. And so I was so excited for this one. So in this one, the heroine ends up moving across the country from Arizona to Massachusetts. Her mother has cancer, and so she wants to come back and be closer to her with like her treatments and everything like that. She ends up transferring colleges and moving in with her brother, who is a hockey player at the college. He's actually the hero of book 1. So she moves in with him and his teammates and roommates. So when she meets one of her new roommates, it's actually her brother's like teammate, as well as a guy she had a one-night stand hookup with at a previous party. The hero is a goalie of the hockey team, and he's kind of like under a lot of pressure when the story starts. He puts a lot of pressure on himself, his kind of team, and his trainers, and his dad, who's also his sports agent. Like everybody's just like putting the pressure on him. I just loved the back and forth kind of texting banter we get between the hero and heroine in this one, because they don't want her brother and the other like teammates / roommates to find out that they know one another and are kind of like, you know, feeling each other out. So they text back and forth. They play like 21 questions, which was so fun. I just love the dynamic between these two, and it's seeing the hero be like sweet and protective towards her. Heroine also has ADHD, which the author wrote at the beginning of the story that is based on kind of her own personal experiences. And so that's touched on in the story as well. This one is shorter than Offside was, which I did appreciate, but I was wanting a little bit more hockey action in this one. Just know that this one in particular has some content warning with a parent with cancer, and then as well as the character being kind of tested for future possibilities of having cancer themselves as well. Next, I was a guest for the Historical Hellions book club, and so I read Wildland, Wild Love by Connie Mason, and I had such a fun time with this one. I ended up giving it 3.5/4 stars. This is definitely an old school historical romance, and with Connie Mason, this is the second time I've read one of her books. I just kind of go in expecting like adventure and entertainment and like off the charts bonkers plots, like a very overdramaticness, which I was kind of here for. That's when the book starts with the heroine and her father taking off from England to Australia. Her father has come into owning a sheep farm there, and so they're going there to kind of take it over. And along the way, the heroine's father ends up getting sick, and so when they get to Australia, he's like, hey, I don't want to like leave you burdened with trying to run this sheep farm by yourself. So he kind of decides to find a husband for her, and it kind of becomes a marriage of convenience with a former convict who the heroine like definitely is judgmental about from the start. So yeah, it's kind of like their setup. It was honestly, like I mentioned, just like over the top, bonkers, a lot of fun. If you're in for like entertainment and kind of like soap opera-esque plot lines, definitely check it out. It was just like so entertaining. The hero falls first, and he was like obsessed with the heroine, which I loved and thought it was so much fun. Heroine, like I mentioned, she is very judgmental and comes off naive when the story starts, but it kind of made sense for her character of kind of the world and the life that she's coming from in England. But she does like change her ways and obviously realize that she's wrong about some of her thoughts, which I thought was good character growth for her. Yeah, lots of like push and pull between the hero and the heroine, lots of like other women drama, lots of just other drama in general, running away, fleeing, kind of like all of these over the top things, but like it was just entertaining. So yeah, 3.5/4 stars for me. And then I got back and finished off the Honey Mountain series by Laura Pavlov. So I read Only Mine, which is the 5th and final book in the series. And this one I ended up giving a 3.5/4 stars. So this one is small town, hate to love, workplace, and like forced proximity romance as well. And this was actually one of my favorites in the series. So the hero and heroine have like a fun meet cute in this one. The hero kind of cuts off the heroine at a gas station. They argue, all of these things, they go their separate ways, and then they realize they're going to be working together because this hero is this billionaire ex-Navy SEAL who is coming to town to supposed to take over his family's hockey business. And the heroine is kind of this badass lawyer that we have seen featured throughout the series. Like the whole series follows these sisters, and so this was her chance to get her book. And so there's tons of like just hateful banter and this fun like forced proximity. They have to work together, they end up traveling together, live next to each other for a part as well. But yeah, it was just a fun time. The audiobook in particular was a lot of fun. If you love a book where kind of the hero and heroine tell each other how much they hate each other just as much, if not more, than they tell each other that they love each other, then this one is for you. Next, I read Citadel by Claire Kent. This is the 5th book in her Kindled post-apocalyptic romance series. And if you know me, you know I'm obsessed with this series, obsessed with Claire Kent, and I couldn't wait to read this one. This was like a surprise drop at the very end of June. So I jumped into it in the beginning of July and loved it so much, gave it 5 stars. The whole series takes place in near a future Earth where an asteroid hit Earth like 5 years ago from when the stories all start. It definitely affected the entire planet. Like it took out the entire continent of Europe. It set off all these global catastrophes and natural disasters and just like a whole hot mess of things. And so people are like barely surviving and barely making it. But now it's 5 years after the impact, and they're kind of, you know, trying to explore more and find little communities and things like that. In the rest of the series, we have followed all these characters that are kind of around one another, or they end up meeting up. And so in this one, the characters actually are from a different place in the US. And so we see them on the coast, the East Coast, and kind of dealing with what's going on over there after the impact. And then it's supposed to eventually lead into the rest of the series, but like this one you could definitely read as a standalone because the characters don't intermingle with the characters of the rest of the series yet, if that makes sense. So yeah, in this one, the heroine and her sister kind of live together, and they end up getting rescued by the hero at the beginning of the story when some band of men come and attack the people that they've been staying with. And so he kind of gets them out of there, and they start traveling together to try to find like a community or somewhere that they can be safe at. And the heroine and the hero obviously start to form like a connection. They have like an immediate bond. And so they kind of have like a little moment, and then he ends up totally leaving her behind at the community, leaves in the middle of the night. And so she is definitely heartbroken. So this one does have a bit of second chance as well, because he does end up coming back a couple of years later. And so she's still mad at him, but also like still pulled to him and has all these feelings towards him. And of course, there's tons of danger, tons of like survival. They're on the run together. They're trying to save her sister, like super high stakes, super high action, like just a great time. This series in particular is just very gritty, and like you're just seeing like these people's hope and connections through all of it. I'm just obsessed with this series, and I could talk about it all day, every day. Definitely love it. Gave this one 5 stars. Next, I read The Notorious Lord Knightley by Lorraine Heath, which is my historical romance queen. I love her books so, so much. So this one is the second book in her Chessmen series, and I went into this one with kind of lower expectations. The first book in the series was fun, but it wasn't like an all-time favorite of mine from her. And then I kind of heard some mixed early reviews for this one. So I went in like apprehensively, but I was like, I'm gonna give it a try because it's Lorraine Heath and I love her. But I was completely blown away and obsessed with this one. I loved it so much. I don't know what other people are talking about. I had a great time with this one and gave it 5 stars. This one is a second chance historical romance. There's some other things going on with the story as well, but I don't want to give it away because with Lorraine Heath, you should know there's going to be like plot twists and wild bonkers things that happens that you're not expecting. So definitely know that going in, but it is just so good. So this one is a second chance historical romance, and very early on into the story we find out about another trope that's happening in this one, which I am obsessed with and loved so much, but I don't want to give anything away because it's not in the synopsis. And I mean, with Lorraine Heath, you should go in knowing there could possibly be some wild bonkers plot twists, and yeah, just like go into this one and be entertained. So basically in this one, the hero and the heroine, they were engaged in the past, and then on their wedding day, the hero actually called off the wedding and then told the heroine like this whole relationship was a joke. I can't believe you fell for it. Totally wrecked her world and left her heartbroken. Heroine's reputation was definitely tarnished after that, and then we cut to present day now, so it's 5 years later, and the heroine has been anonymously publishing this like scandalous book all about her relationship with this villainous Lord K, which of course everybody in society is rumoring that it is the hero because he is Lord Knightley. So in this one, we learned about both characters' family lives. So basically, the hero's father is a duke, and he treated the hero and his mother horribly growing up. So we had some complications with that going on. The heroine was a byproduct of her father having an affair with somebody else, and so she has a complicated relationship with her half-siblings because she was kind of, you know, from the other woman and all of that. And so I feel like what we learned about both of the characters' backstories with their family lives and how they grew up, it definitely makes sense for the choices and kind of the situations that they're brought in the present day. Yeah, just so much fun. I'm so excited for the last book in the Chessmen series. As always with Lorraine Heath books, they all exist in the same giant world. So it's so much fun seeing a bunch of the familiar faces and places. So we see a bunch of the familiar clubs. We see a bunch of the True Loves characters as well, which is a family we followed in Sins for All seasons of that series. So yeah, just a fun time. I love this one. I gave it 5 stars. So next up I had an ALC of Pushing the Limits by Brooke Cumberland, or an ALC is basically an advanced listener's copy, so an audio arc, so to speak, of a audiobook coming out. So this one I ended up giving 3.5/4 stars. I had a great time with this one. So Brooke Cumberland is also the same author that I read earlier this month, which was Brooke Montgomery, as well as she's, I believe, one half of the Kennedy Fox author duo that used to write together. This one is basically a forbidden, angsty, has emotional elements as well, student teacher. The heroine is a college art student, and then the hero is her art professor. So we have all of that going on as well. And then the hero as well, he is a single father or guardian to his niece. This is what I thought it was going to be a little bit more forbidden or taboo than it was, just because of the, you know, their relationship, but it wasn't really, which I kind of wanted more of, but I mean, that is a me thing, definitely. We also see the hero and the heroine, they definitely both bond over losses that they've had in their life. So the heroine, her twin sister died in the past, and then the hero, his brother that he had a very complicated relationship with, he ended up passing away more recently. So they both kind of connect over their mutual losses, and so it definitely has a lot of emotional aspects to the story as well. Did really love the relationship between the hero and heroine though. They easily connect, and it was just really fun to see them kind of fall into this easy relationship together. So yeah, had a good time with this one. Next, I read Happiness for Beginners by Catherine Center. I have read most of this author's backlist, and this is one that I hadn't read yet, and I knew that a Netflix adaptation for a movie of it was coming out later this month, so I wanted to read it before that. So yeah, this one was okay for me, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. This is an older one from the author's backlist, and I just didn't really connect with it as much as I have some of her other books. So basically in this one, the heroine has been divorced recently. She gets signed up to go on this wilderness survival course. It has a ton of that like kind of a nature, outdoorsy, wilderness hike situation going on. The heroine, of course, definitely finds herself along the way. She kind of comes to terms with things in her past. She also ends up falling. There is a slow burn romance in here, but it's definitely more like women's fiction. But there is a romance in here, super slow burn, but it's with her brother's best friend. So we have that going on as well. Yeah, it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Be Still My Heart by Emily McIntyre and Sav R. Miller, and I had a great time with this one. I ended up giving it 4/4.5 stars. This one I didn't even read the synopsis before going in. I just jumped into it. I knew that it was romantic suspense and I just had a great time with this one. This one is available like on Hoopla and Libby, so definitely check those places first if you're wanting to grab the audiobook. This one, it takes place in small town Maine, and the hero is this grumpy ex-Navy SEAL turned lobster fisherman, and then the heroine is a homicide detective who is investigating these murders, and she ends up connecting really immediately with the hero, who is at first one of the suspects for the murder, but of course, you know, it kind of goes from there. And I just really enjoyed. I loved the entire like romantic suspense element. I super believed the chemistry between the hero and the heroine. I was just really pulled in. So yeah, if you're in the mood for a romance with a side of like mystery and murder and all of that, definitely check this one out. Next, I read Without You by Marley Valentine. This was my first time reading from this author. It definitely won't be my last though, because I had a great time with this one and gave it 4 stars. This one, the audiobook in particular, was amazing, and I cannot wait to binge the rest of this author's books on audios. I've heard they're all so good. This one is an emotional contemporary romance. It's an romance, and it deals a lot with grief and loss as well. So it has a lot going on, super emotional. So this one is angsty as well. The 2 heroes actually connect over the loss of the same loved one. So the person who passed away was one of the heroes' brothers, and then the other hero's boyfriend. So we have like dead brother's boyfriend going on. This one I just really enjoyed. I love that emotional connection between both of the heroes and them kind of overcoming this loss together and not feeling so alone. There's lots of just like heartache and insecurities, complicated family relationships going on as well. I just really connected with these characters and had a great time with this one. I cannot recommend the audiobook enough. It was on Hoopla, so definitely check that if you have access to Hoopla through your library. Love this one. It's narrated by Teddy Hamilton and I believe Tim Page. Great time, phenomenal audio. Definitely check it out. Next, I ended up reading Fair is the Rose by Megan McKinney. So this is the second book in the Van Allen Sisters series. I had read the first book in the series, Lions and Lace, last month. Had a great time, loved that one so much, and wanted to check this one out because we follow the heroine's sister from that book. This is her book. So yeah, this one was okay though, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. So these are Gilded Age historical romances, and at the end of the previous book, we saw the heroine of this one escaping from an asylum that she was wrongly kind of left in from family members. So she ended up escaping and she's on the run. So she ends up deciding at the beginning of this story to dress up as a widow and kind of take off and head to the west and get out of New York. So she's doing that and headed to the west when she ends up being kidnapped by these outlaws, one of which is the hero. The hero is part of this like band of outlaws who end up kidnapping and taking the heroine with them. And so they end up kind of falling for one another along the way, which of course the hero comes off like a bad guy, but there might be more to the story, of course. But yeah, I liked the beginning of this one and kind of the premise of it. It is a more Western historical romance, which I do love Westerns. And it has that kind of like captor becoming your rescuer situation, but it did kind of just start dragging for me towards the middle and the end of it. So yeah, that's why I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Meet Your Match by Candy Steiner, and I love this one so much I gave it 5 stars. So I have been reading Candy's books for years now, and I was so excited for the start of this new sports romance series from her. And when I heard it was in hockey, I was just like so excited. This one, if you love hockey romances, definitely check this one out. It brings so much hockey action, like more hockey action than I feel like other hockey romances have been giving, which I was here for. But yeah, it blended all the time on the ice as well as off the ice and was just so good. Basically in this one, the heroine works for a social media company that kind of follows different things happening in the Tampa Bay area. And so she ends up being assigned to follow the hero, who is the hotshot rookie of the local hockey team. She's supposed to document like an entire month with him for this like social media project. So she gets 24/7 all access to him. She can follow him on and off the ice. She can go to trainings. She goes to games. She travels with the team. She ends up even getting an apartment right next to his in his apartment building, like all the access to him. So yeah, we get a ton of forced proximity, which I absolutely loved. The hero in this one, he is just like confident and flirty and not afraid to let the heroine know how much he wants her. If you love witty banter, this one has it so much. And yeah, I just was obsessed with this book, obsessed with all the side characters as well. Can't wait for all of his teammates to get books. Such a good time. If you love hockey romances and haven't read this one yet, it just came out this month, definitely do so immediately. Next, I read Don't You Dare by C.E. Ricky, and this one I ended up giving 4 stars too. Iced Out was one of my favorite reads of the year, and so I've been wanting to read more of this author's backlist, so I wanted to jump in, and I started with this one. So this one is a Friends to Lovers romance. I did enjoy this one. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars, but it definitely didn't beat out Iced Out. That one is still like top tier for me. So in this one, we see the two heroes. They are childhood best friends, and in high school, they end up getting dared during a game to kiss one another. And so they do that. And then we cut to a couple years later. They're now in college. One of the heroes plays baseball for the college team. And we see them kind of both having feelings for one another ever since that kiss a couple years ago, but they're like afraid to do anything about it. So yeah, it ends up kind of going from there. I loved how close these two were. You loved how they take trips together and they go and visit like different baseball stadiums all around the States. I thought that was so fun. I'll say again, the first half of this one I was really invested, really enjoyed. The second half did start to slow down for me. I will say there was times with this one where I didn't feel like both of the characters were that distinguishable. Like they definitely felt the same. Like sometimes it was hard to tell which chapter I was in unless one of them started talking about baseball, then I knew whose POV we were in. So yeah, there were some things about this one that didn't super work for me, but overall a great read. I really love this author's writing style and can't wait to check out more of their books in the future. Next, I read Antihero by Sarah Kate. This is the first in her new series, which follows the Good Brothers. So this one I had an arc of. I'm on the author's arc team, and I gave this one 4 stars. So by the time this video comes out, this one will have already come out because this one's coming out tomorrow. So definitely check it out. It's going to be on Kindle Unlimited. This one does deal a lot with religious recovery as well as self-discovery and exploration as well. In this one, the hero is the oldest son of the state's most prominent pastor. And so he kind of has always wanted to follow in his father's footsteps as well. So one morning he actually meets the heroine at a local diner that he always goes to, and he ends up paying for her breakfast. He's kind of like super pulled to her, but also like can't really figure out why because she's so different from anybody that she knows in his life. Like she has pink hair, she's tattooed, she's pierced, she's dressed like more scandalously than he would usually see people dressed as, and she also tells him she works at a nightclub. They end up going their separate ways, and then they end up meeting again a little bit later when the hero finds out that his like preacher father is actually this VIP member of a local like sex kink club, which no, it's not the Salacious Players Club. Like that is not mentioned in here, even though that's the author's other series. So yeah, we see the hero's life kind of get turned upside down when he finds out about his father and like kind of this like double life he's been leaving of preaching one thing, but like going and doing other things on his time off. And so the hero has kind of always tried to do the right thing. He's a good guy, like his father's protege, and he's always just like done everything that's like right and like perfect. So yeah, his world definitely gets rocked when he learns these things about his father. And then he sees the heroine there as well because she is like dating and kind of runs the club with her boyfriend at the time. So yeah, they both kind of realize that they've both been screwed, him by his father, her by like her ex-boyfriend. And so they end up deciding to team up together, and she's like, hey, we should like take down both of these guys. Like, you want to ruin your father, like the best thing to do would be to ruin the family's reputation, which like you could start pretending to date me. And like they decide that's not enough, so they're gonna make like some scandalous tapes together and leak those. So yeah, it kind of goes from there, goes into this like fake dating situation for revenge against his father. So yeah, we do get some like BDSM and kink exploration in here. There's also age gap. The hero is 10 years older than the heroine. He's 37, she's 27. There is some content warning in here as well, just for like violence. His father's abusive. There is the whole like religious trauma going on as well, and kind of coming out of that on the other side. So yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it's a great start to the series. We meet the rest of the heroes' brothers, which they're gonna get books as well, and I'm just like excited for the ride. So then I read Snowplace Like LA. This one just came out this month as well. It's a novella from Sierra Simone and Julie Murphy. This exists in their same world as their Christmas book, which was A Merry Little Meet Cute that came out last year. So yeah, this one I ended up giving a 3/3.5 stars too. This one we met the two heroes in the first book in the series because they were both working on the set of the movie in that one. So yeah, they had this super whirlwind month-long relationship that one of the heroes thought was moving more serious than the other. And so at the end of the film set, the one hero, he ends up taking this like semester abroad to go and take this job. And so he moves to France, and without telling the other hero, like he just totally leaves, doesn't tell him. And so the one hero ends up being super heartbroken. We then cut to months later when the hero comes back from France and he's back in LA working. They end up working on a set again together. One of them is like a costume designer or helps out with that. And so they work like behind the scenes. It was just fun seeing their second chance. We see a lot of the characters that we saw in the rest of the series and kind of this like whole adult film making business. So yeah, it was a fun time, just like a super quick novella. 3.5 stars for me. Then I read Consider Me by Becca Mack. This one had been on my TBR for a while, kind of like on and off my TBR, I would say. Like I had heard such mixed reviews. I think when I looked up this one on Goodreads, like I had everything from 1 to 5 stars, like from friends who had read it. Like, so it was all over the place of what people thought about this book. So I had always kind of wanted to get to it, but at the same time was kind of like more apprehensive because I hadn't heard the best things from it. But I decided to finally jump in. I had the audio of it. So yeah, I ended up giving this one, though, kind of 3.5 stars. This is a hockey romance that I feel like super blew up last year or maybe earlier this year that I just like never got to until now. And I will say at the beginning of this one, I really enjoyed. This one is extremely long. I think it's almost 700 pages, which was just way, way too long, which was one of my issues with it because I was having a good time with it. And like the first 25-30% of the book, I felt like I was having a great time. I really enjoyed it. And I was ready for the story to be over then though. So yeah, there's so much more dramatics that happened. He has this kind of like playboy image, but he's not that way with the heroine at all. But she like constantly is bringing that up or thinks he's gonna go like with other people. I got old super fast because it happens over and over again. So yeah, if there wasn't all of that, I probably would have enjoyed this more. If it was shorter, I would have enjoyed it more because I loved the hero. I loved how into the heroine he is and just like how sweet he is. But yeah, otherwise like the length and kind of the repetitiveness of the heroine like always believing the worst or thinking he's gonna see other people behind her back, it just got old really fast. I also felt like the characters, which I know some friends pointed out, like the characters just feel super young even though they're not supposed to be. So there's just a lot going on in this one. I'm glad I had the audio though to push through it. It was okay. I'm not sure if I'll read any more from this author. We'll see though. And then next, I just finished On the Shore by Laura Pavlov. This is the 3rd book in her Cottonwood Cove series, and I had an arc of this one. It comes out at the end of the month on July 27th. Definitely recommend checking it out. I gave it 5 stars. So this series I've just had a fun time with from this author. It's a small town series set on kind of this cove by the coast in like Northern California. I just like love the setting. And this one we get a hate to love kind of like forced proximity as well, and a bit of a sports romance because the hero is a football player. So this one the hero is a football player. He's like the greatest in the NFL right now, and like everybody is kind of on his case about where he's going to play for the next season. So he decides to take a break and ends up coming to Cottonwood Cove. And when he gets there, he runs into the heroine who he knew because she is this like sports reporter. He kind of like had this bad run-in the past, and he actually got her fired from her job, which he doesn't realize, but she is now back in Cottonwood Cove because that is her hometown. So when he sees her, like he assumes that she's stalking him, and so they kind of just have all of the hateful banter, which I was here for. I love this. The hero ends up falling first, and he just like can't figure out why he's so pulled to the heroine. So he ends up offering her a job of following him around and getting like all access to him, or like the questions he's gonna approve for her to ask. And like he's gonna give her this inside scoop with him. Like he never lets reporters into his inside life, like his private life. And he's gonna give her the scoop of telling the world like where he's gonna end up signing for the next year. So they end up working together and spending a ton of time together because he's like, hey, let's like work out together. We'll hang out every day. And like, I will only answer 3 questions every day. So like, we're going to take our time with his interview. Like I will approve all the questions, like all of these things. Yeah, this one was just so much fun. I love the like small town setting and kind of all of this hateful banter they have for one another. I love the heroine's entire family. Like I can't wait for more books from some of her siblings. Their family's group text was so much fun. Like just had a great time with this one, and definitely can't recommend this series enough. So those are the 22 books that I have read so far for July. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these ones, or maybe what some of your favorites for July have been. I'd love to know. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.